deep in the heart of Central Texas, it's the Best of the Outdoors podcast. Brought to you by Texas Fish and Game Magazine, the voice of the Texas outdoor nation. I'm your humble host, Dustin Warncke, author, outdoor writer, videographer, speaker, blogger, podcaster, a few other things that I do, but that's okay. Really excited to have you guys back on this show. Thank you so much for tuning in week after week here lately. We've been bringing podcasts to you every week here lately, and this has been a blast. I've been having so much fun doing this show, and we are having another sponsor of this podcast, and that is CZ USA. And CZ USA makes a full line of shotguns, of rifles, and of handguns. And you may have seen some of their stuff if you ever go to the NRA show. If you ever browse online or browse at your local gun store, you've probably seen CZ USA products around on the shelves. And we're dedicating this whole show to that brand. And we've got some fantastic guests and great content lined up for you on this show. I've got Dave Miller, which is on a CZ USA's Pros and one of their product specialists that is going to be talking about shotguns and the shooting sports with sporting clays, skeet, and trap with us. And then I have Dustin Ellermann from the History Channel's Top Shot. He's the winner of Season 3 of Top Shot, and he is our shooting editor as well. And fantastic guy. And we talk about getting kids started in the outdoors, or whether you're an adult or a child getting ready to just start the shooting sports, how to guide new hunters and new shooters, and how to just have fun in the off season when we're not, out there, shooting stuff all the time. It's good times to go to the skeet range, the sporting clays range, or the trap range, and also time to get outdoors with rifles and handguns and practice safety and all kinds of other fantastic things that we do in God's creation. So I'm really excited that you've taken the opportunity to download the show or stream it online, however you're listening. Thank you so much for doing so. This is a dream come true for me to do this show for you guys, and I just love every minute of it. If you've not done so already, please subscribe to the podcast and give us a 5-star rating on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, or wherever you found us. That will help other people find the show outside of the Texas Outdoor Nation and listen to us more, and we love to grow our audience more and tell more people about what's going on with our show. Also, if you've not done so, subscribe to the Texas Fish and Game newsletters. I'll talk about those at the end of the show, and you can do all that at fishgame.com. But CZ USA is our sponsor for this show, and they have a fantastic, like I said, lineup of all kinds of different firearms and accessories and everything. And you can check them out at czusa.com or cz-usa.com. Will get you to the CZ USA website. Have a fantastic lineup for 2018. Looking forward to seeing them at the NRA show and doing some coverage there, which will be on the next show. And just really excited to have the opportunity to share this with you. Can't say enough. So anyway, first up, I should say, is Mr. Dave Miller from CZ USA to talk about shotguns. Here we go. Joining me on the phone, Mr. Dave Miller from CZ USA. How you doing today, Dave?
Doing great.
Wonderful. And tell us a little bit about what you do at CZ USA and the kind of events and things like that you put on and those kind of things.
Well, what I do for CZ USA is I wear many hats. Primarily, I am the shotgun product manager. I oversee everything that's in our line, our shotgun line, so I make sure that what we have is fitting the U.S. market. I also handle special events such as NRA Show, which is coming up.
Yes.
Week after next.
Right.
And SHOT Show, which happens in January every year.
Yes.
And Pheasant Fest, which is one of my favorites because I'm an upland bird hunter.
Cool.
And that happens in the upper Midwest. Yeah.
What town does that happen in?
Well, it could be in Milwaukee. It was in Sioux Falls, South Dakota last year.
Cool.
Or this past February. And yeah, it floats around.
In
usually upper Midwest.
Pheasant country, right?
Yeah, generally. Yep.
That's what I figured. That's great. So how long have you been with CZ USA?
Since I've been shooting for them since 2009. I still compete for CZ USA. I'm an avid sporting clay shooter.
Wow.
I have been shooting for them since 2007. Mm-hmm. Employed as a shotgun product manager since 2009.
Super. That's great history.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. So I was going to ask you a couple of questions here. What are shotgun shooting options that can keep hunters sharp in the off season, as far as what guns and products that you can engage in, or what activities can you engage in the off season?
Well, obviously, if you want to stay sharp in the field, hunting upland birds, whether it's pheasant, quail, grouse, prairie chickens, you name it,
Sure.
you have to spend some time on the clay range, and you have to practice accordingly. So it's important to do that. A lot of folks don't do that enough.
Sure.
Therefore, when it comes game time and they get out there with their dog or their buddy's dog or whatever, and they hit the field, it takes a little bit. It's a diminishing skill. It's something we have to work on all the time.
The law of diminishing returns. Yeah, something you got to keep
Yeah.
fresh. Exactly.
That's right.
So, no, that's good. And so basically you've got several different, sporting clays. You've got skeet, you've got trap, you've got other options that are open year round at most shotgun ranges, correct?
Yeah, skeet's a good one because you can skeet fields aren't as readily available as say a trap field.
Right.
But shooting American trap in the style American trap is shot doesn't do a whole lot for our wing shooting skills.
Right.
Because trap is a game that where we start the gun at full mount and call for the target with the gun in our cheek.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to be a bird hunter, dove hunter, duck hunter, upland bird hunter, you want to be an avid shooter and a good shot.
Sure.
You need to start the gun low, so when you call for the target, the gun is at a 45-degree angle of the ground and the heel is off of your shoulder, the butt pad's off of your shoulder, and you mount the gun like you would as if you were shooting a bird, So it takes some preparation and planning. If you go to the local trap range, you want to ask the manager of the facility, hey, I'm a bird hunter. Is there any way I can get up closer to the trap house?
Sure.
Call for the target with a low gun and mount and shoot. And 9 out of 10 of them will say absolutely.
Okay.
In between rounds, as long as it's a safe situation. So, it's in between other people shooting. You just make sure it's you plan that out. Otherwise, mounting the gun, full mount, call for the target doesn't do much for you.
Okay, no, I'm with you. We've got several different skeet and trap ranges here in Texas, and I've been to several of them, and I've been to charity shoots and that kind of stuff. I'm sure you've done that kind of stuff too. It's just one of those things that it helps me sharpen my skill, or schools me, pencil whips me, if it will. If I'm not practicing, when I should be. So I just wanted to make that point.
Right, the sporting clays is probably the best thing because it is a game where you're the only one in the station calling for your targets, and you can start the gun however. I always prefer to start the gun in a low ready position and then mount the gun into the target, and that's how I shoot primarily, depending on the presentation. But that's probably a much more effective way to train for wing shooting in general. So
super.
Absolutely.
So sporting clays is really a fantastic, because you've got one station you're at, the way I understand it. I've done sporting clays a few times, and then you're basically your targets are coming from different angles, and just depends on that shooting station, correct?
Absolutely. You're gonna have an A and B target thrower at each one of the stations at least, and if you get to a station that's something that doesn't really simulate any type of a bird that you may shoot, skip it. Go on to the next one.
Sure.
Most clays courses across the country have at least 12 stations, so you can find somewhere to camp out a little bit and bang on some targets to get your skills back into check.
No, that's great.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And would you give me a explanation, just because some of our listeners may not know, what is the difference between skeet and trap? And you've kind of explained this to some degree, but give us a rundown.
Okay. Well, American trap is shot on a field where there's a trap house that is usually green, and they usually are brown, and they usually just stick up out of the house about 2 feet. And down inside is a great big clay target thrower, and they usually hold 550 to 600 some odd targets. One big machine that oscillates. And the reason for such a big machine is it's servicing 5 shooters. So you'll have 5 positions. And say you and I are on a squad together, and I was in post 1, I would call for the target, shoot 1, boom, unload my gun, your turn. Then after we went back and forth, we each shot 5 at that station, then we rotate to our right, and shoot at the next station. So where you were is where I would move to,
Yes.
and you would go one more over. So that's American Trap. And there's 5 shooting positions. It's a 25 bird game, and the target machine is oscillating. You cannot see it.
Right.
It goes out at a 44-degree angle from left or right of the middle station, of the middle of the house.
Sure.
So it's a great game. There's more targets shot. Most people don't know this, but there are more targets shot across the country than in American Trap, than anything else. Probably, if I was to guess, times 10.
Wow.
Because it's so easy to go do. There are so many more places to do it.
Sure.
And it doesn't cost you as much as sporting clays, nor take as much time.
Right. That's the thing, is a sporting clay round will take you a couple of hours in a lot of cases, right?
At least.
At least, yeah. I was going to say a couple to a few. Since we're talking about CZUSA, can you recommend a gun for skeet and a gun for trap?
Yeah, we have a couple guns for that. If we're going to shoot trap, we have a couple guns. We have one that's particular. It's called an All-American Trap Combo, and it's a 2-barrel set. It has a unsingle barrel with a free-floating aluminum rib that has adjustable point of impact. So it's great for single going-away targets. It also comes with a over-under barrel, so that if you wanted to shoot doubles or just sporting clays in general, or skeet, you could do that too. So it's kind of an all-around gun, although it does have 32-inch barrels. Both barrels are 32-inch. The All-American is good for either trap or skeet as well, and we make that in a 30 or 32-inch sold. It's individual. It doesn't come with unsingle. That's just an All-American Trap Combo.
Right. I'm looking at the pictures of those right now. But I really think that All-American Trap Combo is a cool gun because you have that option of adding that second barrel, which I've never seen anybody do before. That's kind of unique to you guys, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a tool made for the American Trap shooting game, for sure. Because a lot of the fellas and ladies across the country who shoot competitive trap will shoot both doubles and singles.
Right.
And in doubles trap, you have 2 targets coming out at one time, one going right, one going left,
Sure.
and they're in a fixed position. So you got to have obviously 2 barrels to shoot that. Yeah. So there's that gun. We have a Redhead Target, which is a 30-inch target gun. It's kind of a universal gun. It's good for just about anything, including hunting birds if you wanted to.
Okay.
It's great. So anyway, I explained trap. Skeet is where you shoot at 8 different shooting stations. It's kind of a complete half circle, and you have a target coming out of a high house at 10 feet, and you have a target coming out at a low house at 4 feet. And those targets kind of cross out in front at a slight angle, and it's shot on 8 stations, some stations with pairs, some stations with just singles. But it's a 24 bird game with a 1 target option. So it's a nice gun, or it's a nice game to shoot if you want to learn how to swing the gun, because
Right.
that is a game where you have to move. You have to plan your shots pretty well.
Yes. No, I've certainly done all those, the trap and skeet and sporting clays, and one of the things that I've noticed that skeet helps me do better at is dove hunt, because there's so much with that particular upland bird zigging and zagging in the sky when it gets shot at. That definitely adds a whole level of mystique to it all, I guess is the best way to say it. So.
Yeah, they're tricky dove hunting. They look like they're flying straight, but they're not. They're darting and going back and forth.
Our Texas doves are just awful. Yeah, they zig and zag and go up and down and everything, and it's just like, oh, okay, I thought I had that one. I thought I had a good shot on that one, but then it moved. So,
that's right. I had a great dove hunt this past season. They're in Dahanas, Texas, and shot some white wings. It was great. I love it. I love going down there for that.
Yeah, we've got some really good migratory bird stuff going on here in Texas. And, if you go even further south of the border, Argentina obviously is known as a dove destination. Mexico, they're just stories of just awesome harvests in a lot of those places. But I just like something being close to home and something I can go out and do. And really, I don't know what you think about, I know you're more of a competitive shooter and everything too, but it's a social sport, especially dove hunting in Texas it is. But, I don't know where it is where you live, but it's a thing to hang out and drink a couple of cold ones and just enjoy each other's company.
Yeah, it's a great thing to do. Dove hunting is a huge has a huge economic impact to the Texas market. That's for sure.
Mhm.
I actually went down and did a dove hunting 101 clinic with a bunch of Texas Parks and Wildlife hunter instructors,
Oh,
hunter
cool.
education instructors down there at the National Gun Club in San Antonio a couple years ago. And
Wow.
spent a few days teaching wing shooting tactics to those instructors so they could then pass it on to their students. So I learned a lot about how many shots are fired and how
Yes.
big of an impact dove hunting is in the state of Texas. It's pretty incredible.
That's incredible. So we talked about the CZ All-American and then the All-American Trap Combo. What makes these guns perfect for these applications? You kind of talked about that before, but ideally, I know you were talking about competitive-wise, they really give you options, right?
Well, like the trap combo, for example, it comes with the 2 barrels. It also comes inside of an Americase, an aluminum Americase, which is an airline approved case. It's really heavy duty. It's built really, really well.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's really nice case. The gun comes with 11 choke tubes so that you're not having to always pull a modified out of your unsingle to chase it down and put it into your over-under barrels.
That is really smart. That is really cool.
Lots of options there.
Yeah.
The gun also, and above and beyond all that, the gun is fully adjustable. So the trigger position is adjustable. The butt plate is adjustable for cast and length.
Uh-huh.
It has a 4-way adjustable comb, and all the components inside are drop-in parts. There's no fitting. It has 3 different sized locking lugs, so the gun, after 50,000 rounds, you think you need to tighten it up a little bit, or 60,000 rounds, whatever it might be, you can go to the next size locking lug that bites into the monoblock that holds the barrels tight. Bushings in the receiver carry the firing pin, so then in time, if you shoot a couple 100,000 rounds out of the gun, if most people don't shoot that in a lifetime, but if you shoot 100,000 rounds and the firing pin, it wears into the bushing and the pin are replaceable. It doesn't wear out the receiver.
Really?
So the gun never wears out. Yeah.
That is really cool.
Built to be shot.
Yeah, it's built to be shot, and it's built for competition in a lot of cases, right?
Yep.
I mean, that just with that in mind, it's just the versatility that the CZ line of shotguns has is incredible in my opinion, because you guys have thought out a lot of the longevity things of a shotgun ownership. Will this gun last a lifetime, and can he pass it down to his grandkids? That's something I always take for account whenever I'm thinking of this kind of stuff, is the legacy that a gun leaves a lot of times.
Oh, sure. Yeah, this is definitely one that your grandkids could shoot later. So
right.
No doubt.
Passing on, the passing on thing. So I'm just curious. We're kind of doing a show here about what is the easiest way to get started in competitive shooting. I'm just curious. Since you are a competitor, what would you do if you just wanted to start getting into competition shooting, and what kind of practice would you do? That kind of stuff. It's just a general question for you.
Well, being that you're in Texas, that is honestly Texas's sporting clays capital of the world. Really, it's
I didn't know that.
If you want to shoot clay targets, being in Texas, that's the place to do it, because one, your weather is such where you can literally shoot almost all year round. Unlike me up here in Kansas City, it's cold 4 or 5. It seems like it's cold 6 months of this year.
Yeah,
it's still raining and 45 degrees outside right now.
Goodness.
But it's your seasons are good. You have lots of opportunity, and there are a tremendous amount of sporting clays, trap, and skeet fields clubs in the state of Texas. So you can look at the National Sporting Clays Association website.
Okay.
And look for clubs, and you can find those there. There's just a tremendous amount of them. So there's a lot of places to go do it. Amateur Trap Shooting Association, ATA, which is the governing body of American Trap Shooting.
Uh-huh.
You can find that there. NSCA is also it's also controlled and the governing bodies of the NSSA, which is National Skeet Shooting Association, is actually based in San Antonio, Texas. So,
oh wow!
Like I said, clay shooting is in Texas, big time.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying, I've got listeners all over, outside of Texas too. And I just wanted to give, definitely go look at these organizations' websites, but find what you're also saying is find a skeet club or a trap club or some place that you can go learn about and, learn to perfect your craft, or not perfect your craft, but I mean, get better at your craft. And then most of the time, those clubs and organizations will have shoots, correct? Competitive
They
shoots.
will. And more importantly, they'll have an instructor.
Right.
You find an instructor at that club, somebody to get you started off on the right foot.
Mm-hmm.
At least that way you understand the etiquette of the game.
Yes.
The safety factor of how just overall safety of how to handle your gun properly on the range, because it's just different. Trapped and skeet, even though you're handling your gun in a safe manner, you still have there's different things that you do with sporting clays that you wouldn't do with skeet or trap.
I've learned that over the years. You're right. You're very right about that.
Yeah. You do different things with the gun. So, and, so understanding how to do that so that you don't find yourself in an awkward situation when one of the club members yells at you for handling your gun incorrectly.
Right.
You don't want that. But at the same time, they can also get you started out on how to start breaking targets, and that way you're not, so intimidated by the game, because it's you show up out there and there'll be people that's been doing it a long time, and most shooters though are really friendly and they welcome anybody to come in. So it's a social sport, like you were mentioning before, like dove hunting. But
sure.
It's all about the people you meet, and the clubs provide a great place for meeting and handling business situations as well. I mean, I go to a lot of clubs for business meetings. So
really,
it's
cool.
A great game. Yeah, it's a great game. Sporting clays is absolutely the most fun you can do.
And I also think what I've had in my shooting career, especially with shotguns, is a good mentor. I don't know what your thought is about that, but somebody that you can trust that will give you good advice, that will go shoot with you. I mean, finding somebody like that, if you can be helpful as well, right?
Oh, absolutely. You don't want to walk into it blind. It'd be like, I don't know. There's so many things to it that you want to understand. And just number one, you just got to understand the etiquette of the game.
Right, and the safety and everything, for sure, yeah, and just getting started. And I was going to ask you, too, I'm really big about getting kids in the outdoors, and that's kind of what I'm going to talk to Dustin Ellermann about on the show as well, is how he gets kids involved in shooting. But give us your tactics on how to get kids involved in shotguns, and how to, what kind of CZ products might serve them well.
Well, first off, taking kids to the range. When I say kids, I'm talking people who haven't shot before.
Right.
You get somebody started. If you got a young boy or girl that's in the 12, 13-year-old range, or even younger, as long as they're physically capable of making a good shot and holding the gun and dealing with a little bit of recoil, then maybe they're ready. Some people it takes them longer to get going on something like that. And the noise is a big issue. Whatever it is you do, start with the very basics.
Sure.
So a target that's incoming high, floating into them, or a nice slow outgoer is where you want to start new people.
Okay.
Young or old, doesn't matter.
Sure.
And try them with a gun that is not very heavy, but also has it opens and closes easy, so that you can easily manage the gun. We make a couple of guns, like an Upland Ultralight, which is really lightweight shotgun. But you have to make sure, with like any gun, when you start out a new shooter, make sure that you're shooting low recoil shells.
Right. I was just going to mention that. Yep.
Yeah, it's really crucial. Everybody's thinking that a 20 gauge is the way to go. 20 gauges are great. I prefer starting somebody really with a 12 gauge with a lightweight 1 ounce load.
Okay.
Or even 7/8 ounce load, because it's basically the same as a 20, and the guns usually weigh a little bit more. So
that's really smart. Yeah,
really
that's really
less.
cool. Yeah. Now that makes, because you want, what I always say about getting new shooters, whether it's adults or kids started, is you want easy wins. You want scalable, easy wins. And you want things that are going to be a situation that they're not going to feel intimidated in. They're not going to feel barked at, if they do the wrong thing. But, you want them to be safe, but you also want them to succeed,
I just came back from Texas the day before yesterday. Actually, I was down
cool.
in Austin.
Yeah,
I was in Austin,
that's
Texas.
near where I live. I live in the suburbs of Austin.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
I was down there for a national Girl and a Gun conference, and I had 350 women that was there, and it was great. But the main thing is when you get these young people, new people, however old they are, doesn't matter, as long as they're new to shooting.
Sure.
Get them shooting a shotgun, make them understand what it's about, cut a shotgun shell open so they see what's inside and understand a little bit about how it works. And that will just get them more in tune with what's happening so that they realize, what is going on. I had a gal come into one of my classes 2 days ago and asked me what the difference between a rifle and a shotgun was.
Oh, boy.
And you know what? That was a valid question.
Yeah, for sure.
It was absolutely
nobody told
question.
her. Yeah, nobody told her.
She didn't know.
Yeah, she didn't know.
So she was a new shooter.
Right.
And you know what? She broke more targets than some of the other ladies that were in my class. So
right.
She just didn't know. But boy, she could handle the gun well. She broke birds. So she went away with a positive attitude and understanding of what shotgun is and how to shoot basic clay targets.
Right.
And so that was a real win, not only for her but for me, because I always want to feel good about what I'm teaching people.
Oh, sure.
But you want to set them up for success quickly. Everybody wants to hit a target and feel like they can do it.
Yes.
So that's why target selection, shell selection, gun selection is very important. CZ makes a series of guns that are easy to operate, like the Drake. It doesn't have auto ejectors, so it's really easy to open. You're not having to cock those springs when you open it. So it's really easy to open. So that's one gun that's a great choice. We make other couple that are like the SCTP Sterling that's really geared towards either right-handed or left-handed shooter that has high cheekbones, long neck, like typically seen in a lot of women.
Yes.
And several different adjustable length butt-stocked semi-autos that are very quickly to adjust to the shooter. So you got one person that's tall, as much length. You can push a button and shorten the stock. So it's really, really easy. So those tools will help your students get better quicker. Sure. And actually they'll have success, and then they're going to want to do it again.
Yes.
So
you got to be repeated.
That's the main thing. You got to hit a target, or they're not going to want to do it again.
Right.
Yep.
Let them hit a target.
For sure.
No, that's good. That's great. And what the other thing I'm in love with the CZ USA line of shotguns is the wood grain. I mean, I'm a sucker for a nice wood grain on a shotgun or a rifle, and you guys have that down. So I just like to say
Turkish
that.
walnut is some of the most beautiful wood in the world. And we make a gun now. It's called the Supreme Field, and it has grade 3 Turkish walnut. Uh-huh. It is absolutely stunning. They're beautiful. It's hand engraved. The wood's grade 3. The whole package is just outrageous.
Oh my gosh!
We make a 28, a 20, and a 12 gauge, and it's been a hot one. It's new for 2018. So
that's super.
Supreme Field. It's awesome.
That's awesome. Well, that about wraps up our time together. I at least just wanted to give you a plug if people want to find out more about you and what you do in shooting, and then also about CZ USA.
Yeah, I appreciate that. If you want to check out CZ USA's website, it's czusa.com. I actually have a website. It's millershootingsports.com.
Cool.
And you can check out some of the things I've done, and also, but more importantly, check out those guns that I work so hard to produce. So we got some neat stuff in there.
You know, you're just a wealth of knowledge on just the shooting sports and just in general. You know, all the different shooting sports around shotguns, and I've learned a lot on this show. I really have. This has been great.
I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you. Yeah.
Thanks so much for joining us. And there he goes, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Dave Miller from millershootingsports.com and czusa.com. Fantastic guy, great pro staff guy, the kind of guy that you want to have on your team when it comes to shooting sports, and a company cannot have chosen a better guy to represent CZ USA, because he did a fantastic job on that show, on that segment. So I really, really, really appreciate his time and him checking out our show and checking out what we're up to. So anyway, next up, I've got Dustin Ellermann, again, a sponsor for the show, CZ USA, cz-usa.com or czusa.com will get you to CZ's website. Fantastic lineup of rifles, of handguns, and of shotguns, accessories. They also do silencers and those kind of things for rimfire. Fantastic lineup of different things that you can find at your local gun store as well as online at czusa.com, and be sure to check that out. This next segment is going to be Dustin Ellermann. Him and I are going to be talking about getting kids started in the shooting sports and what kind of guns to lead the way with as far as and what kind of targets and those kind of things that you can engage your kids with. Some new innovative ideas here on target options that you may not have thought of for getting your kids outdoors. And I just love this stuff. I love getting kids involved in the shooting sports, archery, whatever the case may be. But I just the firearms world is a better place because of CZ USA and what they have to offer, and I just can't wait to share this with you. Here's my interview with Mr. Dustin Ellermann from History Channel's Top Shot and our Texas Fish and Game shooting editor. Here we go. Joining me on the phone, Mr. Dustin Ellermann, back from SHOT Show days, and we had a good little interview together there, and back with us again. Welcome back to the Best of the Outdoors podcast, Dustin.
Hey, thanks for having me, Dustin.
Two Dustins, one podcast again. I love it. So tell us a rundown of what's going on with your marksman camp and what you're doing with your camp stuff for youth. And I just want to get into some details on getting you started in shooting and that kind of stuff with CZ Firearms.
Awesome. Well, cool. So, the marksmanship camp started after I won Top Shot. We had our summer camps. I work at Camp His Way, and so we've been doing summer camps for over 20 years now.
Wow.
We stay fully booked. And so after I won Top Shot, I was like, oh, man, I didn't mean to do that, except that was really awesome, but I didn't expect it.
Right.
And the camp's already to capacity. It's like, what are we going to do? I was like, I know. Let's just do a marksmanship camp program focused on kids and shooting, and so I kind of built this program with a Top Shot theme, and we take a relatively small amount of participants at a time because we only take 12 for a marksmanship camp because it's so hands-on.
Right.
It's kind of like, hey, you can't have 200 people on Top Shot. Same thing with this.
Right.
So
you got to make it
we have a dozen kids.
Right.
Yeah, and so I set up the camp like things I wanted to do. So I wanted to ride down the zip line shooting a paintball gun. So we rigged up the zip line to ride down with a paintball gun. We have fully suppressed like 24 guns that we use at the range day, from anything from Henry lever action, Savage, single shots, Volquarts and customs, just like I shot on the show. Smith & Wesson MP 1522s. We introduced the cannon and started using even my Barrett Model 99 50 BMG with reduced loads.
Wow.
For the kids this year. Now, they only get one shot because, it's like $7 a pop.
I know, every time you pull the trigger, it costs something. Yeah, I know how that goes. Yeah.
But it's a blast, and so we have those select weekends in the spring and fall. We finally started letting dads deal in and play as well.
Cool.
Beforehand, it's kind of like summer camp. It's like, hey, guys, this is for the kids. Y'all just sit back and watch.
Right.
But I got tired of them asking every time, can we play? So they can play now.
Oh, that's sweet. That's nice of you to let Dad have a chance, too. So.
Yeah. I warn them, though. It's like, you're shooting all these nice guns and stuff. Marksman camp's only like $250 for the weekend, and that's all meals, activities, and lodging. But in the long run, it's going to cost you like $1,500 to $3,000 because you're going to go home and you're going to want to buy all the stuff that we use.
Yep, for sure. I get it. No, that's great. That's funny, man. That's great. So we're talking today about CZ because they're sponsoring the podcast. What experience do you have with some of the CZ guns, especially the handguns? I know you're big into handguns. Tell us a little bit about that.
Oh, man, the CZ P09 I did right after it came out, and I still remember it just because it was one of the most accurate out-of-the-box pistols I'd ever shot. I was shooting some Black Hills ammo in it, and I started off at like 25 yards, and suckers, kind of like one hole in it, but It was high. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, well, shoot, it's high. I just started backing up, and I ended up at 100 yards shooting a plate rack down, like almost 100% accuracy because the sights just ended up being zeroed for that. So I'm shooting 8-inch plates at 100 yards. I'm from a bench, but I was just like, that was too cool. So I had to go get a video camera, and you can find that on YouTube still.
Cool.
But that was my one of my most favorite, just out of the box guns that's just super accurate because they've, the CZ75, they're built on that same type of action and the way they do their frame, where that the kind of the frame hugs the slide.
Right.
And, the full length of it, super solid and a super tight lockup, great trigger, and, man, it was working. I like it.
No, that's super, man. I mean, they've really been innovative in a lot of the handguns they've come out with, like the P10 I talked about earlier before we started recording. I was complimenting the guy on that I interviewed earlier on this podcast, Dave Miller, and I said, man, that the wood that they use in their shotguns, Turkish walnut, and it's some of the most beautiful gun wood I've ever experienced out of a production-made gun, long rifle. And I mean, I've got a place in my heart for that stuff, man. I don't know what it is. I just love that wood. So. Yeah,
you talked about cool look, and it made me think of the CZ Scorpion.
Mm-hmm.
That's one like. I mean, it's a military one they adapted for civilians, but man, that sucker just looks cool. It's straight out of the video games, and that's always smart when they not that that they made it from the video game,
right.
But Call of Duty and stuff made it really popular, and then you you come out with a civilian version for it. That's smart thinking right there.
That's
everybody's
right.
just like, that looks awesome, and they were early on that pistol caliber carbine type phase. And I had a video on Facebook goofing off with the Scorpion because it was the pistol brace version. So,
yes.
You got a shorter barrel, but you don't have to worry about that stamp.
Yes.
And I strapped it to my arm just like a pistol brace is supposed to do.
Right.
And I'm riding in a Yamaha Rhino while I'm shooting, driving at my range and just ping, 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 hitting the still target.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, CZ Scorpion for sure. There's the EVO 3 and the EVO S1 and the EVO 3 S2, and it's just a really cool looking gun. It is kind of futuristic looking, was what I said before we started recording. Well,
and I'm looking right now, we're talking about youth. It's like they got this 527 youth carbine.
Yep, I'm looking at that right now too.
Dude, that looks. I love the European look of it, and you can tell just by the stock difference. It kind of drops that comb, and of course it's shorter.
Right.
Coming in 223 and 7.62 by 39. I was like, I want to play with that. it needs threads, of course, because I need to put a suppressor.
Suppressor, of course, you got to put a suppressor on it.
That's a neat looking one.
Yeah, that's cool. And that's what I wanted to get into this show, talking with you about this interview, is how to get kids started right, because you start kids all the time in the shooting sports and help them become quote-unquote marksmen in the shooting sport at a young age. What kind of things do you look for in how, like, for instance, my son is right-handed, but he's left-eye dominant. How do you handle something like that with a rifle?
Yeah, I got you. Well, that's one of the first tests we do when they get to marksmanship camp, because we start on primitive weapons like archery and whatnot. And I've done this for 6 years, 7 years now.
Right.
And so I can spot a kid from 40 yards away and know, oh, you're lefty by the way they handle a rifle or the bow, because they're going to cock that head in a awkward position. And and then as a dad, if you're not used to that, if this is the first kid you've taught to shoot, you're going to just wonder why they can't hit the target. And a lot of times they're picking up the front sight with their dominant eye, but they're trying to shoot off the right shoulder because that's what they've been doing with toy guns, because they're right-handed and they never had to aim before.
Yep.
And so as just if they're left eye dominant, well, by golly, you got a left-handed shooter.
Right.
And so, with the exception of pistols, you do all long guns from your left shoulder. You're going to shoot a left-handed bow, and because you can train your hands, but you can't train your eyes. Now, there's ways around. Some people handicap themselves, and I'm big in action shooting, like 3-gun.
Yes, I know you are.
And in archery, I'm shooting fast and, recurves, just reloading, speed reloads and doing stuff at camp like that. and both eyes open, that gives you, of course, 75% more vision on the left side of your head if you're right-eyed, and the depth perception and the ability to pick up targets moving better, and so I really want to train them to shoot with both eyes open.
Sure.
But there's the other school of thought. They put they smear Vaseline on their shooting glasses or put a piece of tape there and just so you can block out your dominant eye in order to force your non-dominant eye to shoot. And man, I can't come up with a reason to do that unless you discovered it late in life and you couldn't train yourself the other way around.
Yeah,
so
I see that.
Once you find that, it just a couple thousand repetitions with a BB gun or airsoft, and it'll feel just as natural to them.
Okay, no, that's good to know, because that is a thing that a lot of young shooters, is finding that dominant eye and finding to make sure that they're going to be shooting the gun on the right shoulder and aiming the right way and those kind of things. So I definitely wanted to bring that up. But giving them something I talked about on the other show that I do with Dave Miller. Easy wins is so important, isn't it?
Yeah, making it so they got that satisfaction, right?
Right, exactly. That's where I'm going with that.
You don't want to try to set up, hey, y'all shoot a golf ball at 100 yards for your first.
Right.
It's gonna suck.
Yeah.
And I guess that's where my shooting range really comes in handy, because I have probably several $1,000s worth of steel targets.
Sure.
And so you got a good chance of hitting something just by shooting.
Right.
But with the proper fundamentals, and there's been, we've had over 800-900 kids come through marksman camp, and maybe 2 or 3 of them just didn't pick up a certain sight picture, easily enough.
Right.
And so that's when it's nice to have backups. So, like they had trouble with the traditional irons. Well, it's like, try this Savage Rascal with a peep sight. And all of a sudden, they're drilling everything.
Right.
So I don't know what the deal was with the other gun, but, because I draw the sight pictures and everything. But, so you have to diagnose fundamentals. But, man, we've got every single kid that's come through for the last umpteenth years that will end up marksman camp drilling a golf ball with a Quartz and Custom from 50 yards within the first 2 shots. And so, it's just and the coolest. I love the campers that come that never handled a gun, especially the girls, because they listen and it's like, you teach them right. Here's the fundamentals. Here's how to do the trigger press. Line the sights like this. Hold it steady, and ping. They're hitting every time. And so that's why I do I hardly ever shoot at paper. We shoot at paper at marksman camp. First time just to diagnose, make sure nothing's going crazy.
Right.
That they're on target, they're close, and then we just keep tightening groups from there. And a lot of times we just do it with freshly painted steel, which is fun, reactive, and gives you that proper feedback. And when you do it suppressed, it's almost loud. Yeah,
because you just hear the ding instead of hearing you hear the report of the bullet louder than you hear the gun, I imagine, right?
Oh yeah, well the report, the smacking of the bullet against
that's what I mean.
Because we
the
use,
report.
Yeah, we use
that's
that
what I mean by
subsonic
report.
stuff
I'm
even.
sorry. Yeah, sorry.
And that's something too. Is it's not just about suppressors being cool. It helps. Well, one, as a safety sense, because you're more aware. You don't have muffs on. Dampening commands. It helps in a social sense because, hey, we can all just talk, and it's kind of like golf. It kind of takes that everybody's kind of quiet when someone's shooting, but you can still socialize.
Sure.
But it makes them better marksmen because it takes away the psychological effects of the explosion happening right by your face.
The loud
22 rifles are. Yeah, they're quieter than a pellet gun now, and so they shoot better too. And so it's just fun stuff. I really like that.
No, that's great. And those are good tips to kind of get started with everything, because I help a lot of kids. I've helped a lot of kids over the years through my YouTube videos and stuff like that. I know you do too when it comes to shooting, basics. But, every chance I get a chance at these camps that my son goes to jump in the archery stuff and, teach just a little bit of what I know. And just to see that reaction of the kids enjoying the time in the outdoors and hitting a bullseye or whatever the case may be, makes it all worth it, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, it's awesome. I have a video of a kid It's on the cover page of the Marksman Camp Facebook page, but the cover video, it was a little 9 or 10-year-old hitting steel, and it's his very first shot on steel with that suppressed rifle, and he turns around just like in wonder, like, did you hear that? Did you see that? That was awesome.
That was awesome. Oh my gosh, that's so
very
funny.
Cool.
No, that's cool. So the 527 carbine, which is a youth variant of a CZ rifle, you mentioned it earlier. It comes in 223 or 556, so it'll shoot either one. And 7.62 by 39. Some people will disagree, about hunting with a 223, hunting deer. My son is kind of growing into gonna harvest his first deer, and 223, if it's loaded right, is not that bad of a weapon. And then the 7.62 by 39 is not far away from a 30-30, as you know, right?
Correct. Yep. I can't say I've ever killed a deer with a 223. Never tried.
I've killed a bunch of deer.
I've killed a lot of hogs.
Right.
Honestly, it comes down to shot placement more than the caliber.
Right.
Now, I've had my kids actually shot most of our deer with 300 blackout.
Right.
And I never had one. We never had one get away, but we never had a good exit wound. Mm-hmm. And so, if you're tracking, that's not cool.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, and that's important too. Is that your kid can shoot the caliber well. If they're scared of it, they're gonna miss.
Yeah, that's so important. I'm so glad you said that. Yep.
Slam their eyes shut, pull the trigger. I remember the first time I shot my dad's SKS.
Yep.
I'm like 13 or something. I totally shut my eyes, struck the trigger, and then wondered why I didn't hit the target at all. Oh, no. That was all me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just got to hope for the best, right?
Yeah, and so, of course, that's why we love training with a 22. Get that psychological factor.
Sure.
And, I'll do the little switcheroo, and I think maybe even you were talking to me about it. Someone was, have them with a 22 long rifle upper and the same optic.
Yeah.
It was, I think, a suppressor buddy of mine, and you switch it out with a 6.8 or a 300 blackout upper.
Right.
The kid doesn't know any different, and all they do, they put the dot on the deer, and they may not even know it recoils if they're in the moment, more than normal.
That's right.
But it's about that practice, and you need something to not scare the mess out of them, so they actually make a good shot.
And as I talked about in the shotgun podcast, it comes to, or the shotgun segment, I should say, of this show, it comes down to easy wins and not scaring them for the recoil and scaring them for the, for the noise, and that's what suppressors help us do. That's what, good shooting skills and just starting small with something maybe like an air gun and get the shooting fundamentals down, and then moving into something like a larger caliber or 22 in a firearm world. That's kind of what I try to do when I teach, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and once they get old enough, they almost like a little more recoil.
Right. They expect
my 12-year-old. Yeah, Bowers, actually Tom Bowers, a Bowers Group, stopped by here on his way back from the NFA review last week, and my 12-year-old's out there dumping probably 5 or 6 full auto mags through the MP5 demo gun and just soaking it up. He's shooting my my Savage 308 with the Verse 30, and just like doing another. He's loving the recoil now.
Oh wow!
And so. So they'll get to that point, If my 12-year-old's loving a 308, then, it's all downhill from there.
Right.
Now, he did not like my 338 Lapua the last.
That's a bit of a kicker there, Dustin, isn't it?
Well, I just describe it as a long push.
Yeah.
But I guess when you're half my size and, probably awkwardly trying to get on the scope, it shocked him a little.
Yeah, no, I get that. I just, but something like 7.62 by 39 that the CZ 527 youth carbine's in, it's an intermediate cartridge, right? So, it's one of those things where it's not fully, a 22, but it's not fully a, 30-06 either. It's kind of in between. And I think that's a comfortable, and it's a fairly accurate round. It wasn't ever designed for accuracy. It was designed for the AK-47 and the SKS, but, its predecessors. But, you can get those in. My favorite loading for the for the 7.62 by 39, Wolf makes 154 grain soft point, and that has been a great hog and deer round for me.
Really? For the 7.62 by 39?
Yeah, for the 7.62 by 39, yes.
Ooh, I like that.
So there's something to chew on there. And then for the 223, I know you said you've killed hogs but not deer. I've actually shoulder shot deer with a Federal Fusion 62 grain. And has had success with that. Even when my father-in-law, slaps me on the back of the back, and he says, "Well, that deer didn't go down right away." Well, we found him within 20 yards of the gunshot, of where I shot him. And so, I mean, those two rounds, Wolf 154 grain for 39, and then the 223 with the Federal Fusion 62 grain. I mean, those have kind of been my pet rounds to go to for non-cut. I don't have the time to reload, but for factory ammunition, if you will.
Yeah, and the great thing about that stuff is it's some of the most inexpensive ammo out there.
That's true.
So you could easily turn that gun into a recreational gun for your kid and just clean it up for deer season. Because that Wolf and Tula stuff for the corrosive. I mean, not corrosive, just dirty.
Right.
And but yeah, I mean, I could totally see my 12-year-old overheating the barrel if I didn't.
Well, the 527's a bolt action, but I guess you have a point there.
No, that don't matter to him. He's gonna stuff those mags and launch them.
And start launching them. I love it. That's great. But that's one youth gun I thought that would be a good one to talk about for off-season shooting, and then getting ready for hunting season is the 527 youth carbine. But you make some great points about not making it too scary for them, because I'm teaching my son archery right now, and I'm just trying to captivate his interest so he keeps coming back to it. And that's what I try to do with the shooting sports too, is make it somehow interesting enough. Play a game. The things that you have with the painted steel targets and reaction targets and stuff like that is really cool as well.
Yeah, and that's easy to do. And when I was young and didn't have a budget for steel targets, one of my favorite targets was just ice. And actually, we still use that at marksman camp.
Really? Okay.
One of the challenges, we'll have about 24. You take a solo cup and you can drop some, food coloring in it.
Yeah.
And then go out there and just blast away. It's so cool to the kids. We don't tell them it's ice.
Right.
And so what we do is we call them dihydrogen monoxide targets. That we pour into molds. Yeah, you get an H2O. We pour into molds a week early, dye it, and then store at a sub-freezing temperature.
Oh boy!
And if you hit them dead center, they vaporize.
All right, so let me get this straight. Do you actually take them out of the solo cup and you freeze them, pour them upside down, pull out the solo cup, and then shoot the block, right?
Yeah, run a little water over the cup. They'll drop right out.
Sure.
Or if you have, to go travel to a range, they'll be melted enough to drop out too.
I just want to make sure I understood you. That's all. So.
Yeah, and of course, you can just take ice cubes. Even if you're going 22 precision, we do paintballs. We just put paintballs up on golf tees, and the kids are whacking those at 50 yards with a 22, and it's neat because they vaporize, and when you're shooting suppress, you actually hear the paintball popping down range.
That's too much fun, man.
and that's free. You just dump some ice out.
I love it.
We've done it when we do long range, so you're shooting 700-800 yards. Don't want to go back and clean it up. Take like those ice cream buckets and fill them up, and put them out there, and then once you connect, we'll pick out the bigger pieces and blast them. Okay. And it's like shooting glass without a cleanup. So
that's really cool.
I never, kids and reactive and all that, and it's even safer. If you got to shoot it close, it ain't gonna splatter on you and stay back.
Right. We had a big cleanup, and I guess when I haven't seen any videos of this, but I guess when the ice is hit, it kind of explodes with color. I guess is that right with the food coloring?
Oh yeah, it'll you got colored pieces that go everywhere. It'll
that's what I thought.
Depending on how well you hit it, and that's the strategy. This is a team game that we set them all up, the whole team on the firing line with single shot savages, and we'll tell them so we give them each 10 rounds, and then we set all the targets up down range and tell them the person, the team that has the most rounds left at the end wins. So it's an accuracy challenge.
Sure.
But it's also one where they need to work together with teamwork and call their shots. So that's the shooting with both eyes open.
Right.
You can call your shots better if you're looking with both eyes.
Yes.
And so if you nick one, that's a hit. But you may argue with your teammates about wasting another shot if you hit it, but they don't believe you, or
right.
But if you hit it dead center, it vaporizes and there's no argument.
So
and
cool.
So it's a fun one.
Well, and then back to CZ, the CZ Rimfire, they've got an integral suppressor for their varmint barrels. That's something you're really into, right? Is the integrally suppress, I should say.
I've played with a few of them, and they're some of the quietest because when you integrally suppress, that's such a weird word.
I'm sorry. I'm tripping all over it here. You're having trouble with it too, I guess.
Yeah, I do. My videos are full of me stumbling over it. But they're some of the quietest because they're really a huge suppressor.
Right.
And plus, they just look cool, because it's all, built in.
Right.
The only downside of them is, you got a tax stamp tied off to that gun.
Right.
So, it's a different market, but it is it's still it's effective in what it does.
Right. And especially when it comes to hunting, I mean, obviously there are a lot of reasons to use suppressors and those kind of things. In airgun world, we call them moderators, but the same deal basically. It's just that it keeps things quiet. I mean, it's good for the kids not having to wear a lot of hearing protection and that kind of stuff. It's good for you. You're not spooking all of God's creation out there. And that's something I don't talk a lot about on this show is suppressors, but I think I see, especially when youth is involved, the benefits of it.
Sure. And another thing is they're actually shorter. Because you don't have to mess with a tech stamp for a SBR, but when you integrally suppress something, over the full size, you end up with a shorter package.
Oh, that's really cool. That is really cool. What other thoughts do you have for getting kids in the outdoors? And just you and I talked about this in the last regular podcast that we did, aside from the SHOT Show coverage that we did. What are some other tips that you have just in closing for getting kids outside and enjoying the outdoors, enjoying the shooting sports?
Well, I know the one thing I try to do is make it about them.
Sure.
If you're dragging them to the range when you're just wanting to shoot,
right?
You're gonna not be as focused, and you're gonna want to do your own thing or set them up, and here you shoot 22 while I do my stuff.
Right.
And if that's not when it works out well, and it can be downright unsafe if you do it that way too.
Yep,
and so it has to just be planned for the kiddos to go and teach them and spend time with them. And so if you've got that as your motive, you're gonna do great. And then just starting at their skill, and as well as not being such a stickler for form.
Right.
As long as they're safe, we let them roll with it. But, I'll tell them later, it's like, hey, that worked for you, but in the future, if you work on this, it will help you, once you shoot a gun that actually recoils or something like that.
Sure.
We've had some dads, you get those ones that just want to coach their kids to do the best as they're there.
The first time.
And then the kid gets frustrated.
Right,
yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. And so it's like, the most common thing I see is, okay, I teach a real aggressive stance, because I come from a 3-gun background, standing unsupported and practical accuracy and controlling the recoil is a lot of what I do, because shooting fast and getting the move and shooting at other targets, that's 3-gun.
Right.
And so, but with kids, when they are smaller and weaker, they tend to have that backwards lean. And sometimes it's just necessary because they're not strong enough to hold the gun up in the proper stance. And so sometimes you have to just accept that okay, he's 8.
Exactly. Exactly, right.
The rest will come later, and as it's more practical, as it's more necessary. And so, just make it fun for them. Make it fun for them. Think about them, and man, it'll be a blast.
No, that's great. I wanted to close with that too, because I really think making the focus being their success is going to build their self-esteem. I know you're really big about building self-esteem in your marksman work. And just the fun of it, that's the reason why we get a lot of times we lose sight of that because we just want to turn our kids into great shooters and everything like that. We lose the sight of it being, entertaining. It's being God's creation that we're out in, that we're, no matter what the weather or the wind or whatever is doing, that we're just grateful for the day, and I don't think that can go without saying for sure.
Yeah.
So.
Some of my fondest memories with the kids are just sitting in the hunting blind.
Right.
Man, my 9-year-old, he was so stoked once. He packed lunch and dinner. We stayed in the blind from like 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. We didn't get out or move. It may have been even 9 p.m., but it was like, because we were hog hunting.
Right.
And I was like, I have never stayed out this long. But he was committed.
Wow, that's great. He was sold out on hunting for sure, right?
Yeah, he was.
That's great. Well, thanks so much. Is there anything else? How do people find you on social and otherwise, Dustin?
Oh, sure. Googling Dustin Ellermann will do it, but marksmancamp.com. That's
okay.
The best way to get all the camp programs, and then we're all over Facebook, too. And if they're interested in Marksman Camp, it's kids 9 through 13, and then teen 14 and up. But it fills up quick, so get on the email sign-up list because last camps were filled within 48 hours
of announcing
it. So
wow, that popular.
Limited space.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, they're that popular. That's wonderful. All right, so you're on Facebook, Insta, all that stuff. I know YouTube. You got your own YouTube channel with a big following and stuff, so people can find Dustin Ellermann all over the place. So anyway, thanks so much for joining me on this show, Dustin.
Hey, thanks for having me. Good times.
And there he goes, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Dustin Ellermann from History Channel's Top Shot Season 3 winner. Back in 2012, he won History Channel's Season 3 of Top Shot. So got a lot of great things to say about the work that he does with kids, with his marksman camp, with his regular summer camps, Christian camp. It's just fantastic stuff. And I know we talked about a lot of products, but the CZ527 youth model, fantastic adult rifle as well, and the adult version of it. But the 223 and the 7.62x39, fantastic first-time rounds, low recoil, intermediate cartridges, I should say. Fantastic for kids to get out in the outdoors and not be scared of recoil and that kind of stuff. My pet loads or my pet factory rounds for the 7.62x39, again, is a Wolf 154 grain. I think they still make that, and I've got a box of it here at the house that I use. And then for the 223, the Federal Fusion 62 grain, which is from Federal's premium line of ammunition and kind of the higher echelon of the ammunition they offer for performance, and really cool round. And I've taken a lot of hogs and deer with that particular round, with that particular brand of ammunition, and they're a little bit more expensive than your regular 223, but really on the scale of things, they're not really that bad. I think it's like $26 a box of 20, which for premium ammunition that you're using, high performance ammunition, you definitely want to consider spending a little bit more and getting your performance worth out of your money, and that's definitely a good consideration there. So again, sponsored by CZ USA. That's cz-usa.com, or czusa.com will get you to the same website. And great, fantastic guys to work with there. They've been an advertiser with us for a number of years now at Texas Fish and Game, and we're just really, thrilled to have them on board doing a podcast with us and doing a sponsorship like this. So again, check them out. Rifles, handguns, shotguns, Turkish walnut on their shotguns. Their upper echelon of shotguns is fantastic, and just can't say enough good things about this company. So definitely go check that out. Also, be sure to sign up for our newsletters. Fishgame.com will get you there, and on the sidebar, kind of the sidebar down a little bit, you'll see a newsletter sign-up form, and you'll be able to register for our weekly newsletters. We have the Tactical Tuesday newsletter. We have the Tactical and Practical Tuesday newsletter. We have the Wildlife Wednesday newsletter, and then we have the Thursday Texas State of the Outdoor Nation newsletter. And this week, that's running in all three, this podcast is, so I'm excited about that. With CZ's logo, and that's really cool that we have the opportunity to work together like that. So however you're listening, please feel free to subscribe to the show. It does not cost you anything to get a new one of these every week to 2 weeks, and got a fantastic lineup for the rest of the year for some topics in the off season and things you can do, as well as things in the during the hunting season that you can do, and fishing season you can do, and all the different things that we cover here at Texas Fish and Game. A lot of great things. So thank you guys so much again for watching. Thank you so much for reading. Thank you so much for listening. Have an awesome day in the outdoors. We'll see you next time.